So you break your arm, right? The X-ray shows this clean, jagged white line.
Yeah, it's undeniable.
Exactly. The doctor points to the growing film and says, there it is. That's the fracture. It's binary. It is completely clean. But when a 70-ton commercial airliner falls out of the sky and just slams into an uncharted, hostile jungle.
Well, the human psyche doesn't break cleanly.
No, it doesn't. It shatters. It fragments into like a million invisible, jagged pieces. And there is no X-ray machine on Earth that can show you where the trauma begins and the person ends.
Right.
So today we are stepping into the Starchive audio logs to examine this deeply cynical, frankly brilliant piece of source material known as the scriptless abyss.
It really is a masterpiece of dark psychology.
It is. And just to be clear for everyone listening, we are not here to talk about aviation mechanics.
No wind shear or engine failure today.
Right, none of that.
Yeah.
We are here to act as your behavioral psychologists. Our mission for this deep dive is to dissect the brutal power dynamics, the neurological glitches, and the complete mental erasure of the survivors of Flight 550.
And it is a harrowing text, precisely because it forces us to look at the artificiality of our own lives,
Oh, absolutely.
They build these incredibly complex, towering identities, our careers, our social standing, our carefully curated online personas, and we treat them like they are forged from titanium.
Like they're permanent.
Exactly. But the scriptless abyss acts as a pressure test. It takes a Hollywood actress, a slick corporate middleman, a rigid flight commander, and a hyperlogical teenager, and it drops them into a primordial environment.
Where all that titanium instantly shatters like cheap glass.
Right. It asks this terrifying question for you, the listener. What is actually left of you when the civilization that created you is suddenly violently unplugged?
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how these survivors shift mentally, to understand how they revert to these raw primal states in the mud, we first have to understand the sheer universe-ending trauma of the inciting incident.
The drop itself.
For a drop.
Yeah.
The source text describes the cockpit plunging into the abyss. The horizon just vanishes. There's no altitude.
It's a free fall.
Right, and there's just this strobe light horror of lightning illuminating faces twisted into silent screams. But there's a specific sensory detail here that I will really want to challenge you on this, because it feels physically contradictory to me.
Okay, what is it?
The text notes that the deafening roar of the wind, the sound of the aluminum fuselage literally ripping apart, sounded to the passengers muffled, like hearing your own death from underwater.
Yeah.
How does an explosive, deafening roar sound muffled? Is that just, poetic license by the author, or is there a genuine physical mechanism happening there?
It is not poetic license at all. Actually, it's a profound textbook illustration of a neurological self-defense mechanism. It's known as auditory exclusion, combined with immediate involuntary dissociation.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, when the human brain is confronted with stimuli that vastly exceed its capacity to process, think about it. The negative G-forces lifting their stomachs, the deafening shriek of tearing metal, the absolute certainty of impending death.
It's too much data.
Way too much. The mind essentially uncouples from the physical body to protect its core processing centers.
Uncouples how exactly? What is actually happening inside the passengers' heads in that microsecond?
So you have to look at the brain's threat response architecture. In a moment of ultimate trauma, the sympathetic nervous system violently activates. Adrenaline and cortisol just flood the system.
Right, the classic fight or flight.
Exactly. But the sensory input is massive here. If the brain processed the full volume of that tearing metal, the auditory cortex would be completely overwhelmed.
Meaning what? Like they would pass out?
Potentially leading to immediate catatonia, yes. So the brain filters it. It mechanically and neurologically dampens the input. The stapedius muscle in the ear literally contracts to limit the movement of the ossicles.
Wait, really? The body physically alters its own hardware?
Yes. It physically reduces the volume of sound reaching the inner ear, and simultaneously, the brain's attention networks narrow so severely that peripheral sounds are completely discarded.
Wow.
The reality of the trauma is pushed away, submerged, hence hearing your own death from underwater. It is literally the brain building a temporary acoustic bunker.
That is incredible. The hardware protecting itself from a software crash. And, it's not just sound that distorts, it's time.
Oh, the time dilation is fascinating.
Right. The text explicitly says that outside the plane, they were falling like a stone. But inside the cabin, time stretched like taffy.
Yes.
Kin, one of the passengers we'll talk about a lot later, literally watches a single tear crawl down the actress's cheek in excruciating slow motion.
He watches the flight attendant's hair float up millimeter by millimeter.
Exactly. He sees a suitcase float past his head, then a seat, and then the earth. I mean, how does a brain caught in a literal free fall suddenly perceive time in super slow motion?
What you are describing is a phenomenon called tachypsychia.
Tachypsychia.
Right. It's a neurological condition that drastically alters the perception of time, typically induced by extreme stress, physical trauma, or, a life-threatening encounter.
So what's the mechanism there?
Here's how it works. Your amygdala, which is the brain's primary fear center, goes into absolute overdrive. Normally, your brain encodes memories at a standard, efficient rate.
Just enough detail to help you navigate your day.
Exactly. But when the amygdala senses an existential threat, it basically screams at the hippocampus to start recording data at an exponentially higher density.
Oh, I see. So it's essentially upgrading the brain's frame rate from like 24 frames per second to 1,000 frames per second.
Precisely. It is recording every single micro-expression, every shift in light, the exact trajectory of that floating suitcase.
Why though? Just so you remember the trauma perfectly.
No, from an evolutionary standpoint, the more data you have about a life-threatening event, the better your chances of spotting a way out.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. Because your brain has laid down such a massive, dense file of memories, for an event that only lasted, say, 4 seconds, when you experience it in the moment and when you replay it later, it feels like it took minutes.
Because there's just so much data to sift through.
The sheer volume of recorded data creates the illusion that time itself expanded.
It's like the brain instantly rewrites its own processing speed. I look at it like a forced, violently abrupt hard reset of a computer.